MSNBC's continuing coverage of the Republican National Convention in Tampa, Florida. That, of course, is the keynote address for the convention. New Jersey's Governor Chris Christie. I'm desperate to hear Chris Matthews' response to this. I have to say, personally, Chris, I'll throw this out to you. I am a fan of Chris Christie as an orator. I enjoy hearing him speak. I think that he's a guy who brings a looseness to his political conversation that even when you disagree with him, it makes you want to pay attention. And I want people to pay attention to politics, so I like that about him. But this speech not only, I think, was a bad speech, I think that this was one of the most remarkable acts of political selfishness I have ever seen on a stage this big. This was a 2,600-word speech in which he used nearly 1,800 of those words before he first said the name Mitt Romney. And as soon as he said Mitt Romney, he went back to talking about himself for hundreds more words. This was Chris Christie accepting the nomination of the Republican Party for 2016 because Mitt Romney wasn't even interesting enough to talk about in the keynote address that is supposed to be for Mitt Romney's nomination. I find this speech to have been totally shocking, completely opposite to what I expected.
Well, it seemed to fit, however, perhaps more grandly into the whole pattern of tonight. That the best speeches tonight, the best speech parts were not about the presidential nominee of the party as of tonight. Kasich's speech out of Ohio, the best parts of that speech were about Ohio and what he's accomplished there. The best parts of Santorum's speech were about his family with a difficult birth and a difficult childhood for his youngest daughter. The story tonight about I have to disagree about the quality of the speech. I think most pros will say that was a barn burner that we just heard from Chris Christie. But that was a great speech with a touch of Churchill in it, but it didn't have a touch of Romney in it. I still go back to something that may sound painful to Republicans, but I saw a candidate for president tonight wheeled out as if he was a statue in the Hall of the Presidents in nearby Orlando. He did not seem like a human being even sitting there. And I kept thinking, there was John Sununu going nuts over that speech, and there was Romney not even moved by it. He is a hard candidate to sell, Mitt Romney. Nobody tried very hard to do it tonight. I agree with you about that, Rachel. The best parts of the rhetoric tonight, and there was some towering rhetoric, I disagree with you, I guess, on this fellow from Jersey, had nothing to do with the nomination of Mitt Romney for president. That means they're not achieving their goal tonight. They haven't warmed him up. And by the way, I don't even think his wife warmed him up tonight because I think it's too hard to do.
I think they have made a great case.
By the way, Howard Fineman is sitting here with me, by the way.
Okay, I would love to hear Howard's take on this. I also want to hear Steve Schmidt's take on this as a Republican strategist and as the orator among us. We should also hear from Reverend Al Sharpton in terms of the quality of the speech. I'm prepared to be talked out of my opinion that this was just not a very good speech, but I think we are in agreement that what the Republican Party most did tonight was make the case for their bench. If not for the team that's on the field, at least the team that might be on the field in 4 years. But let's go to Howard and hear his take on this and what he's been able to report from the campaigns tonight.
Well, a couple things, Rachel. I was down on the floor earlier tonight, and I have to agree with Chris. I was in the Texas delegation. That's why I'm wearing my Texas pin. The Romney people, even though Romney himself is not much of a presence, the Romney people try to clamp down on the rules, change all the rules, centralize power in a party that's supposed to be about decentralizing power. And even the Romney people in Texas were furious at him for that power grab. And to me, that's sort of emblematic of what you've got going on here. You've got a party, a grassroots party, sitting there in the hall that's somehow disconnected from the guy they're about to nominate. And I think that was evident on the floor tonight, and that's evident in the speech tonight. And I'll say one other thing about Chris Christie's speech. I thought it was very tough and aggressive toward the Democratic Party. It was a tough, combative speech, but it was nasty and it was mean in tone, which might be fine for Chris Christie and make him feel good and might score some points for the base, but does nothing for what, as Chris was saying, the main objective of this convention has to be. To tell us who Mitt Romney is and why he would be a better steward of the economy. Open him up, talk about him, explain him. This speech did none of that tonight. And I even think that Ann Romney's speech never used the kind of anecdote or line or moment that we didn't know about that somehow was revelatory, that somehow made everybody sit up and say, hey, that's really interesting. I didn't know that about Mitt Romney. That makes me think he might have the values and the character to be something more than a spreadsheet Mr. Fix-It. That's what they need to do here. I don't think they did it tonight at all.